from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking Catholic. I am Marianela Nunez, your co-host here with my friend and colleague, Mike Bress. How are you, Mike?
Good, Marianela. Good morning to you. This is our first recording of two today, so we're we're going to be on Zoom, looking at each other on a computer screen for much of the day today. But it's good to see you both physically in the office and on the computer.
Of course, and as we are recording these podcasts in the week prior to Catholic Schools Week, tell us, what's in your head these days for Catholic schools?
I'd have to say what's not in my head for Catholic Schools Week. It's an exciting time. We just yesterday, at the time of this recording, just yesterday, we finished putting together the Catholic Schools Week supplement as part of the Catholic Star Herald, which will come out the week of Catholic Schools Week, or this coming Friday, the 24th, which will lead into Catholic Schools Week. It's a gray paper. I think it's 52 pages total with like a 24-page supplement. We have great stories, a column from our superintendent, a column from our assistant superintendent, Sarah Cairns, who's just started with us within the last year. Some great quotes and conversations with parents, some teachers. It's all the great things that we do in one great big paper. So we're excited about that. And then just trying to put the schedule together. I know you're going to be going to some places next week alongside me, and we just have a great time. We celebrate our Catholic schools all year long, but this is a great week to do it concentrated. So I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for my visits and all like the fun that's happening in our schools. And also, it's big re-enrollment season for our Catholic school families. So if you're a family in our Catholic schools that have not re-enrolled yet, this is the time. Like, don't be late and take advantage of all the specials and incentives of some of the schools are putting out there to re-enroll your kids for next year. So today, Mike, we're gonna just kind of like introduce our guest here. I am thrilled to bring an inspiring conversation today. Joining us are two extraordinary guests. We have with us Tom Burgoyne, and we also have Evan Marcus. They are the authors of the heartfelt and transformative book, Pheel the Love. Their work explores themes of connection, kindness, and the power of spreading positivity in our daily lives. Whether you are a student, a parent, a teacher, or simply someone looking for ways to make a meaningful impact, this episode is sure to uplift and challenge you to think about how we can all feel the love. So grab a cup of coffee or settle into your commute, and this is going to be a great conversation. And just, a side note there, we also, like, Tom is a friend of the Philly Phanatic, so we're going to have some conversation around that as well. So welcome, Tom and Evan.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We should note that this is a long time coming for us to get a chance to talk to Tom and Evan again. They had we had the opportunity, I should say, to have them be guest speakers at one of our principals meetings back at the end of last school year. I believe it was in May, and it was a thrilling, and truly, as Marianela put it, inspiring talk, and we all got copies of the book and were able to read about the work. So again, thank you guys for being here, and we're excited to finally kind of debrief on that and talk a little bit more about your work and how it equates to the school. So I right off the bat from me, what for both of you, what were your thoughts on the meeting? How did you enjoy talking to the principals, and what did you take yourselves out of that meeting?
Evan, take it away.
It was a gift for us because, from the moment we walked in, the prayer time, the purpose of the Catholic Church and Catholic education, we were talking to the choir. It was about love. And, maybe we bring a certain bent to it around, how do you generate this kind of love, not only within ourselves, but in the people we touch and the messages. This is a great way to build a great organization. And I got to say, I learned a lot because the conversation was very rich. Clearly, the principals in your school have dedicated themselves to this type of work. And so it was a wonderful conversation about love. I know one of your principals, she was talking about she used to do volunteer work or still does in the inner city, and how she had made a decision. She wasn't going to be afraid because she was coming from love. And once she knows she's coming from love, everything, I mean, it just really, I learned a lot. Let's put it that way. But it was really wonderful to be with our people, so to speak. Oh, and your article was the best article anyone's ever written
Wow.
about us in the book. Really, that right, Tom? Wasn't that?
Yeah, yeah. I guess that was in your publication soon after, and yeah, Evan and I thought it really captured the spirit of what we do, our message, and the vibe that I know Evan and I both felt that day. It was just a great day in Ocean City.
We're so happy that that was the case. And, because we want to take advantage of every minute of this conversation, I think we want to talk about, why don't you share the story behind the Pheel the Love book? Like, why did you start writing it? And, just immerse us in that world of your thoughts at the moment you started.
You know
Good,
what?
you start.
Yeah, I'm going to let you take
Tom.
that too, Evan.
Really?
Yeah, you tell this story so well, how we met and how this story came so organically to us.
Well, it goes back to Tom Icavone, not your principal Icavone, the father of Tom Icavone, had hired me originally to come give a talk at a conference he was putting on. And then 2 weeks before, he tells me I didn't know him at all. He apologizes that they went and hired the Phanatic. His partner was friends with Tom's brother. And my first reaction internally was like, you got to be kidding me. All my great background in organizations and leadership, and I'm getting bumped for the Philly Phanatic. But thank God, again, it goes, but the whole story came from love, because that's the way Tom Icavone is. And he said, well, why don't you come? He felt bad. He said, you'll meet some of my clients. It might be good for you. And I go to this thing, and you would have think I'm the most important person there. I'd never met him. I'm like the low man on the totem pole, the guy who didn't get, the speaking gig, and he's introducing me to all his clients. I go to listen to Tom speak. Tom, the Phanatic, was speaking. I thought, well, I like to speak. I'm going to take some notes. I'll learn something. And then again, Tom Icavone, afterwards, he makes a point to come over to me and say, hey, I want you to meet Tom, this Tom. And I took a risk. I said, I had it on my iPhone, all my notes for myself. And I said, look, I generally don't give advice if someone doesn't ask me, but I have all these notes if you're interested. And Tom was like, yeah, I want to get better at what I'm doing, which is also part of our message of love. Love is about a very high level of excellence, we found out. And that's who this guy is in life and in his work, the Phanatic, this Tom here, both Toms. Matter of fact, after this call, the reason I have to get up early, Tom Icavone introduced me to another guy from Gloucester Catholic that really got Tom into his current career.
Wow.
So Tom and I started meeting. We didn't know what there was there. We just knew there was something. My wife, Tara, too. We would sit at Whole Foods and talk. And Tom would just tell stories. And one day he was running late, which for Tom is 5 minutes early. And he's like, oh, it happened again. The waitress found out who we are. And she's like, oh, my God, I love the Phanatic. And I believe this is a God thing. I mean, even before this call, I took some time in prayer. And I asked God to, I know what it feels like when love is in our heart. He's put that on us, that this is our main purpose in life. And I asked it to allow that to come out in this conversation, that that's really our purpose here. And I believe God put that in our mind, because as we were sitting there, Whole Food, a light bulb went off. And I'd say maybe I should call it a God bulb went off.
I like that. Yeah.
I just made that up just now. That was God too. God just told me to say that, a God bulb.
There's some extra merch coming out of that one.
Yeah,
I
God
like that.
bulb. You guys can do it. And the message was, this is about love. That's what this whole story is about. Who wouldn't want, because we heard the love and saw the love people have for the Phanatic, and it's love. I mean, that's really how people feel. And we're like, what organization, what school, what church, who would, if you care about, who wouldn't want your people to love you with that same genuine love people have for the Phanatic? Imagine people, little kids running in the church on Sunday morning because, wow, I get to see the Phanatic, but you know what I mean? They have that love for whatever they're doing. And that's what our whole book was about, to try and understand what creates that love and how people can replicate that in their personal life and their organizations and their family.
Mm. For those who are listening out there, Pheel the Love is not written Feel. Can you spell it, Tom, and say why Pheel the Love? It's a unique name.
It is. Well, everything around the Phanatic, if it begins with an F, we change to a PH. It's always been a kind of a sore subject too in our marketing office for the last 30 years because it gets a little tiresome. Oh yeah, you're changing an F to the PH.
Yeah.
That's gotten old a little bit. That's an old ploy. But in this case, we thought, no, we got to do it. It's so good. And the more we explored the concept of love and that title of the book, Pheel the Love, I know when I go out and speak and talk to kids, sometimes I talk to students and college students. And I said, I went to Drexel University as a marketing major, and I didn't even know what marketing was. I just thought you had to be, an upbeat, positive guy. Maybe you get into sales. But I wound up finding marketing is really about how you make people feel about your product or your service. And, what are those emotions? And so I love the title of our book. Yeah, love is a big part of it, but a big part of the love is how the Phanatic makes you feel.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's, he just makes you feel warm and fuzzy. For some, it's funny and, laugh out loud. For some, it's nostalgic when you see the Phanatic. The Phanatic's been around for 47 years now. And so when people come running after the Phanatic, I see dads, dragging their kids to come see the Phanatic, chase after the Phanatic at a game because, this is what they did when they were young. So it really is now crossed over generations, which, of course, when you start thinking family and those type of feelings can be very, very powerful. So, we love our title, even though, the PH has been probably done to death.
I as a lifelong Phillies PH fan and a Philadelphia native, it never gets old for me. And as a marketing guy, I'll take if Nike can just do it for the last 50 something years or however long, I think the Philly can continue with it. But I know for Evan, we only have you for a few more minutes. On the business side, because part of this is the book piece, and then what we had you out for, was the speaking part and doing some of the hands-on stuff. So how did that part, coming from your background a little bit, and you can, briefly just tell folks about that, but just from your background, how was it? How did that part come about? Like saying okay, this is not just a book, but these are principles. I have them sitting here, your principles as part of it that can equate to schools, businesses. Where did that speaking part come out?
Well, actually, we started with the speaking part, and then the book came afterwards. And when we sat down to go, okay, this is about love. Like, it was a question. Like, do you have to be a green guy running around at a baseball stadium? So we said, let's explore what creates this love. And we didn't think of 7 principles. We were like, what creates this? Well, we heard enough of Tom's stories. We were like, the first one hit us. It was like, well, that's who Tom, this guy really is, and who the Phanatic is. He was like, you got to love them first. Tom, that's his whole focus. Is going out there. It's not about him. It's about what do I do to make this kid smile, make this kid's day, make something memorable. His whole focus is on them. And when we heard that, I'd say, well, that seems like a pretty universal concept. If you want something, give it away first. And then we're like, oh, okay, maybe there's some other things here. So that's kind of how we didn't look for 7 principles. It was like dissecting, reflecting on, his career and trying to understand how does this work. And, what I do for a living with my partner and wife, Tara, we we we're leadership people, so we've built a ton of leadership courses. We do executive coaching, strategic planning. It's our nature to take these principles and teach them.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to be a rabbi. I went to rabbinical school for 3.5 years. I didn't finish, but I didn't go there for no reason. You know, it's in my blood to teach, as it is Tom's. Tom's a teacher at the
Yep.
core.
Right.
So yeah, Tom, you should have gone. I don't know why you went to marketing. Maybe that's it. But that's so it started. We started doing these workshops, and then it was like we should put this in a book.
So
That's interesting. Yeah.
before you leave us, Evan, like, can you describe one of the stories of the book that maybe kind of like really epitomizes what it is that the book is about, like something that exemplifies love in the book?
It is. I don't know if this is in the book or not, but Tara and I used to, or we still do, support Sacred Heart School in Camden.
Yes.
And, you know, help with the students. And for like 10 years, we raised money to send the whole 5th grade class to Camp Nicken, you know, to like on a school trip for 2
Yeah.
days, overnight and everything. So I was we take pictures, and my wife wanted to make it like Oprah. They get all these things, and I'm walking in the school, and honestly, I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I got other things to do. And being around Tom, one of the things in the book we was like, and it's not to be disrespectful, like what would Jesus do? We were like, what would the fanatic do?
Right. It's
As
true.
I'm walking in, I'm like, what would the fanatic do? Because I've watched the fanatic. And I'm like, he'd put on a smile and he'd be full of joy, and he'd walk in this building with, you know, the fanatic energy. And that's exactly what I did. And I experienced what Tom experienced all the time. Not only did I bring some joy to these kids, I was happy. I went from like, oh, I got to do this to like, all right, let's go. And that's one of our core principles, that it's a choice. It's a choice you can always make to come from love, or if it's easier to, okay, what would the fanatic do? And it wasn't about me jumping around and dumping popcorn on people. It was about joy, expressing joy. So I don't know if that's what comes to me. Is that story in our book, Tom? I don't even know if it's in our book or not.
I think it is. Yeah,
It
I think
is.
it is. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we also say the fanatic has an outward expression of optimism.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
that same thing. It's like, well, the fanatic, I like telling the story in the 7th inning when the fanatic is getting ready to go down onto the dugout. He has to go down the steps, where the people are sitting. And sometimes, the game's not going so well. We could be down 10 runs, or, the weather might be cold. But when the fanatic kind of enters into those sections, the energy rises, and it's just because people have become so accustomed to the fanatic's personality. It's consistent. It's always there. He's the fanatic, win or lose, is there. He's joyful. He's having fun. He's playing, and that's his brand, if you want to call it that. So that outward expression of optimism. Hopefully people like Evan. I love when you tell that story, Evan, because you really took it and used it, and that's what I guess really what our message is too, that when people hear our message and they read the book and understand the principles, that they take it out and they use it in their lives, maybe in their business life, and it makes a great organization, but also in your personal life too.
Before I go, I did want to this point. So, when we work with senior leaders, and any kind, could be a school, could be a core, whatever. One of the most important thing is to help them, identify what their vision, their values are. But secondly, the most important thing for the most senior leaders is to model those. Because people feel it when the companies or school says we stand for X, but the senior leaders do Y. People are unhappy because it's disingenuous. But the opposite, when the most senior leaders model those behaviors, that's what lends to create a great organization. And that's part of, again, what Tom is saying, that it's a choice. You don't always feel that way, but you're not always in the mood. Stuff's going on in your life, but how do you make that choice to model? And the fanatic does it better than anything or anyone I've ever seen. The consistency, the steadiness of bringing that message.
Even and like just talking about, like, Tom just mentioned, this is about taking it personally and applying it to
Yes.
your life. How has the book writing and all of these conversations you've had around the country or, even internationally, changed you as a person? Like, how has impacted your own personal life?
Well, why do those of us who participate in our religions go regularly and study regularly and read regularly? Because none of us get this like that. And so it's a continual journey to reinforce. So maybe these messages came through us, but I need to read them as much as anyone else because it reminds me of who I want to be, how to do it. It's easy to forget. And again, that's why we study. That's why we pray. It's not a one-shot deal. It's a lifelong journey. And so too is this book. So it's been a gift for me. It's helped me be a better person, really. And I got a friend, the best thing one day, before I go, so Tom and I, we talk a lot. It was like 7 o'clock. We get off the phone. We're talking about the book and we're about to have dinner. And I said to my son, I said, you know what I really got out of this? I got a friend.
Oh, Evan, that's too
And I'll
nice.
tear up. I mean,
Aw.
that's the best thing out of all this. We got a friend in Tom.
Well,
That's been the best reward of the book in this whole, and we still are. I really enjoy every time we get to talk and be together. It's a gift. So
It's
No,
beautiful.
that's wonderful. We're gonna figure out in the editing to put that at the end so that it really
okay.
wraps the conversation together as if you didn't have to go. No, that's truly wonderful. Well, Evan, we know you have to go, but we're gonna keep Tom for a little bit longer. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will say I continue to enjoy these, principles and look at them. I'm like you in the marketing side of things, go and the energy that you get from the kids, from the parents, from the teachers who, just I don't care what I feel like when I'm walking in, I completely change when I walk out, and I think that comes from this, remembering these things too, these principles and the faith aspect of it too. So thank you, Evan. Good luck. Please tell all the Toms that we say say hello,
Well,
no matter which one you're talking to.
yeah, it's
So
funny. I'm getting off to have a conversation with a Gloucester Catholic person. So
yeah, yeah.
it's your
We'll
Catholic
say.
day, Evan.
Yeah, we'll say go Rams and good luck with that. And
all
we're
right.
again we're
God
thankful
bless you
for you
guys.
being on. Yes,
See you
thank
both.
you.
Bye, Tommy.
Hi,
Yeah.
Evan.
So Tom, it's funny. So I think when in the brief time we had together in May, I probably chatted about this, but I have marketing background, very similar, story about like where was I going to go in it, and sports was always this sort of place for me. I love sports. The colleagues in our office know I've taken on some of our elementary sports stuff just because I enjoy it so much, but. I find there's like two examples that fit into this, and I'd love to know your feelings on this. The first is the sort of emergence, I guess, for lack of a better term, of that Savannah Bananas model. And I know they came to the stadium this past year with sold out crowds. And they have not the exact same principle from Love, but this entertainment value. And I'd love for you to speak on that. And then one of the other places that resonates with me, and I've only just been finally able to start this series, but there's and I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a slight Ted Lasso feel to this optimism and feel for it. So the easier one is to go with the Savannah Bananas first. So what's your feeling on that? And do you see some of what your work has done over your time and the book, how does that equate to what they're doing down there?
Oh, for sure. I was fortunate enough to see the Savannah Bananas for the first time this year when they came to Citizens Bank Park, and I was blown away. I'm taking it from the perspective that the Philly Phanatic back started in the late 80s, early 90s, late 80s, I guess, really started, where the Phanatic would go around the country and do minor league ballparks, perform at minor league ballparks around the country. It really, early to mid 90s, I mean, I was doing 30 or so minor league ballparks a year on top of the 81 home game schedule. So a lot of fun, seeing the world, seeing these little small minor league, small towns, understanding that, man, kids, people are laughing at the Fanatics Annex, even if we're in Tacoma, Washington, or El Paso, Texas, or wherever, all the places that I went to see what the Savannah Bananas are doing. It's kind of a version of that, a lot of times you go to Savannah to see this, but they've taken it on the road. And yeah, the thing that I took from that is, and how I can relate it to the Fanatic is just they're out there. First of all, they're passionate. They love what they're doing, and it just shows. A lot of times when I talk, I'll say, I'm an old head, so I love Bruce Springsteen and a classic rock, and you go to a Bruce Springsteen concert, the guy's been doing it for 50 years at such a high level, and you can tell he loves it because comes it just shines through, and you're immediately attracted to that. I love sports writers. Jason Stark is a Hall of Fame sports writer. Love reading Jason. When you read one of his articles, you can just tell he's having so much fun with it. He's so passionate about it that it again attracts you to it. So then the Savannah Bananas, it's just they look like they are having so much fun out there that you just can't get. It's hard not to get caught up in that. So look at what it's become, such a successful business model.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they sold out Citizens Bank Park last year, and they're going to come back next year and sell out 2 dates.
Yeah.
And so, when Evan and I are talking about this love and, in a business context, it's a little unusual, to go into, back in the early days, I think people led a little bit more forcefully, and, everybody was like, you do this and that's it. And there was no softness to it. But the fact is, you can really make a business case for love. And that's what Savannah Bananas are doing.
And because I just look at, and Marianela, for you, I jumped right into what they are, and I apologize. And for any listeners that don't know, this is a minor league baseball team, as Tom has said, that completely changed their model. And they changed the rules of the types of baseball that they play to make it about entertainment first. And so I'm looking down at your principles, and the first one, the big smooch, love them first. I mean, that's the owner's title of his book is Fans First, right? And that was always his goal, was the entertainment. He knew baseball was slow, the rules were sort of archaic, and okay, you know what? The guests that are in the stadium, if they catch a foul ball, it's an out. They're participating, right? And there's dances, there's all kinds of things. So that's why it felt very similar, and for you to be able to experience it with them coming in, it's great to hear.
And one of our principles is called the belly womp. Make it fun.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Yeah.
It's a good business. You don't think of fun work, but if you just make it fun, I think a lot of good things happen. I love when I put skits together here at the game, and I involve some of my fellow employees. They get to dress up. They go out on the field. The Fanatic makes fun of them usually. But just that concept of fun is and play. Evan, actually, he wrote a book about play and how important it is in our lives, and we lose track of that sometimes when we get buried in work responsibilities. But the Savannah Banana experience was awesome, Michael. I can't wait to see him again next year.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. So I love it.
So, just thinking about, the book and your experience after, writing it and talking about it, are you able to share any reactions that have surprised you from people and readers that have experienced the book and you have come to share with?
Well, I got to tell you, I love when we go out and speak about this, and I go out and can do it on my own, but also to do it with Evan is really special because, as you heard, Evan is really a teacher, and can be so inspiring. And sometimes when we're together and we're relaying this message, to get the emotional reaction we get from people, and people will come up afterwards to us, and sometimes with tears in their eyes, and I think it's a combination of people love the Fanatic. I think that's a big part of it, but then also this message and kind of tying these two things together and looking at the Fanatic maybe in a different way. When you think, I know it was like that for me, because when we first started on this journey, I had to kind of step back and look like, well, I'm just doing my job. I've been doing this for 36 years. Like, what is it that I'm doing? I'm just putting my head down and doing the job. But when I step back, literally out of costume, and like, well, why do people react the way they do? Why do they do it? it was really enlightening to me. Like, oh, yeah, this whole idea of loving you first. It's like, well, yeah, I guess the fanatic does high five. I tell a joke. I say, I think I've probably have the Guinness Book of World Record for number of high fives, because I'm in the costume about 250 days out of the year, average about maybe 100 high fives a day. And, you do that for 36 years. But and the fanatic hugs you. He gives you a big smooch. He makes you laugh. It's like, oh, these are all things that I did that I wasn't quite aware of. I was doing that automatically. So that's been really enlightening, and it's just really cool to see people react when they hear the stories and kind of understand. Yeah, there is a little bit more below the surface of what the Philly Phanatic is all about.
And you mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, but it mentioned in your talk and it mentioned just before we started recording that you have a background of going to Catholic school in your youth in
Yeah,
the Archdiocese, I believe, right?
absolutely. I went to Immaculate Conception School, which is unfortunately now closed in Jenkintown. A
Okay.
lot of my buddies and friends all went to Bishop McDevitt, which is also now closed, unfortunately. But at the time, I went to the prep, St. Joe's Prep. My dad went to the prep. My three brothers went to the prep. As much as I love my buddies, and I kind of thought about, yeah, maybe I'll go to McDevitt, with my buddies. My brothers are like, you're not going to, you're going to the prep, So, and I had a long history at the prep as well. Going to football games, going to events, going to things when I was in grade school. So I knew I was going to the prep, and it wound up being a great experience. Just as you know, I mean, it's just an outstanding experience at the prep. I was the mascot. That's how I got started, Michael. I got, started as the mascot, the hawk, not the guy who flaps his wings, at every, sporting event. But actually, the costume was built new that year when I was a senior, and it was a brand new costume that was very cartoonish. It didn't look like the one that people are accustomed to at Hawk Hill. And so I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I'm such a Phanatic fan. I can kind of make it a little bit more of a funnier mascot at the prep. And I guess that's how I got started.
Little did you know where that was going to take you as a high school senior, right?
No.
Do you think any of your, given that we're, our title of our podcast is Talking Catholic, and there's Evan sort of touched on it on his part. Do you think you took anything from your Catholic education into the world now? I mean, some of this definitely reads that way, but we're also taking it from that lens, So did anything inspire you from your time in Catholic education?
Well, no doubt. First of all, I love the Prep's motto is men for others, developing men for others, which really I think is a Jesuit tradition of service. So service obviously is a big part of the Catholic faith. When I was at Immaculate, we had a Father Joseph Kane came to us when I was in sixth grade, and he really re-energized our CYO program. So sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, not just basketball and sports, but also a lot of the service elements. I went to the prep and then stayed with CYO throughout high school, and actually was our president of our teenage CYO my junior and senior year, which really gave me, I think, a lot of leadership tools and just confidence, when you're that age. And, everybody's got insecurities, I think, at that age, to be given that responsibility to kind of run our CYO program for 2 years, which was just invaluable, and things that stay with me to this day.
Yeah, that's great.
What an amazing story. And as we kind of like continue this conversation, Tom, I would love for you to share, as the best friend of the Philly Phanatic, any inspiring stories about the love that the Philly Phanatic has been able to provide across the country, because really your message is about love, but I think the Philly Phanatic really embodies that. And story that people may not know, may not be on the news, people may not have heard of.
Yeah, I mean, I get so much. the Fanatic. I don't get fan mail, the Fanatic, and I appreciate you guys still calling me the best friend of the Fanatic. Because I'm just talking about my buddy, the Fanatic. But I really get a lot of. I open up his fan mail. Let's just put it that way for the Fanatic, and it's just really inspiring to hear people who are so affected by it. I remember going to the Fanatic has a reading program, Fanatic About Reading. It's 20 years old. Just this year alone, we have over 130,000 kids in the program. We go to a lot of schools around the Delaware Valley, and we get kids reading, and the Fanatic goes to the top, performing schools, or at least the schools that have, the most energy around the program. And it's really awesome. And I remember going, we did one in South Philly, so I didn't have to go too far from the ballpark. And I pulled up, and there was a woman standing outside the school. Now, she heard that the Fanatic was coming to her school, to the school. She didn't have a child there, but she knew the Fanatic was going to be in her neighborhood. And so she was standing outside. So when I jumped out of the van as the friend, she said, "Oh, are you with the Fanatic?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, I'm hoping to at least see the Fanatic, and maybe I wanted to give him this." And it was a picture of her. She was in a hospital. She was just about ready to be wheeled in for surgery and cancer. And she had a Fanatic doll with her on the table, and she was bringing that doll into surgery with her, and it meant so much to her. So it was really, I get to hear those type of stories a lot. I remember that particular day, the Fanatic, when he did jump out of the van to kind of go into the school, he brought the woman with him into the school and sat her down in one of the seats so she could be there for this school assembly. But and then there comes a point in the assembly where the Fanatic dances, with the kids or teachers, and the Fanatic made a point to go down to where she was sitting and dance with her. So to be able to do that, it's just it's kind of words can't describe.
I have to share as we continue. I just have to share one of our school stories that happened recently with the Fanatic. A principal down in Summers Point at St. Joseph's Regional School asked the Fanatic to come to help kick off their fundraising and their race for education, their walk or race for education, and I was there taking some photos, and they had a whole shtick that they were trying to kind of play, that it was going to be this ho-hum thing, and the Fanatic would come in and the kids would lose their minds. And I have to tell you, I mean, if you could put the decibel level before he walked in and after, the difference was incredible. And the energy that the Fanatic brings and that you bring, like it popped through the door, boom, and it just starts, and the connection and the kids, and like you said, it's not just, I love that you shared that story. It's not just the kids, which we love for that, but it's picking out different people. There was a secretary or teacher there that was like, they were honoring and loved and loved the Fanatic, and the Fanatic came up and gave her a big hug, and it just, pictures and stuff, and it was just such a wonderful thing. And it's, I think, I want to say I will never forget it as an adult, but I don't think the kids will ever forget it either, and I think that's a special part of making these lasting memories, that it's just a cool sight to see.
Yeah, and that's where I thought you were going with it, in terms of, the kids always, when you go into a school and the auditorium just explodes, the kids go crazy, but it's also the teachers go crazy too, so it is funny that it's really cool that the Fanatic appeals to both the kids and the adults, and it's generally just mayhem ensues.
Yeah.
I was really happy to be able to dance with the Fanatic, Tom. So just tell him I was, thrilled.
Oh, is that right? Where was that?
That was at the principal's meeting. I was
At
able
the, yeah.
to
Oh, okay.
amazing.
I was gonna say that even in a small room like that, I mean, we were having breakfast and it's in a restaurant in the little the hotel there that we were having the meeting in their conference center. The laughter and the smiles, like that warmth, as soon as he walked in, even in the hotel. I mean, you say like there's people waiting out there. I'm waiting out in the lobby to help escort the Fanatic, which honestly is probably my favorite part of my job so far, at least on this call. But the people who were checking into the hotel, were not sure what was going on, but instantly we're like, oh my God, it's the Phanatic, and can we get a picture when you come out? And the kitchen
Yeah.
staff, I mean, you said it's all ages, but I remember walking in and the principals just smiling, and the sort of like innocent laughter and giggles of like what he did. I mean, he obviously went over to our one principal who's bald. He definitely has a thing against bald people, which we should probably address on this
That's for
podcast.
sure.
But and it just all those things, and they just all loved it, and it brought. I think it then brings, and maybe you could speak to this, Tom. It brings energy to the talk later, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there's definitely a connection to that, and I think is that something that you see as well, in when you do both, or have the opportunity to do both, that it brings
Yeah.
something to the talk later.
Yeah, I think they see it in action, and certainly when you do a Phanatic, when we do our talk around the Delaware Valley, people are Philadelphia fans, so they're very familiar with the character and the personality, and so you don't need the Phanatic doesn't need any introduction. But that being said, when you see the Phanatic performing, and then 10 minutes later we're hitting you with the message, I think it's very effective. We don't always do that. So, we do have a video that we play, that is a 3-minute highlight video of the Phanatic. So it does remind people. It is, I do talks, and Evan and I do around the country even. So we do show that video. So if you're not quite as familiar with the Phanatic, it helps with that. And it's just been the Phanatic to have that. We talked about the consistency. People know the personality. The Phillies are just such a great organization in that they let me kind of develop the character. When the Phanatic wants a new toy like a hot dog launcher, or
Ask about that.
or they give the Phanatic all the toys. And also, the costume. The costume really is made in a way. I think it's funny looking. It's built in a way that I can move in it and give the Phanatic some life. I think certain mascots it's a little harder to do because it's a big head. I always think of poor Mr. Met. He's got that big head on, and he can't really move the head around. And but with the Phanatic, when I move, the Phanatic moves, and he kind of has a. I love it. He's in the Hall of Fame mascot, or not? Well, he's in the Phanatic's in the mascot Hall of Fame, but he's also in the Baseball Hall of Fame. There's a whole display with the costume, and it says the Phanatic has a perpetual look of surprise, and I love that description, because that's kind of what it is. So everything's kind of a surprise and new to the Phanatic. So I think there are a lot of elements that come into play when people get so excited when they first see the Phanatic. There's an anticipation and just a familiarity with the character.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was going to ask Tom, like, as, Catholic education leaders, and, speaking about teachers in the classrooms, how can we replicate a little bit of that, teaching that you give in terms of making people feel the love? And in that case, making our kids continue to feel the love, and do it in such an exemplary way, and in a fun way.
That is a great question, and God bless all our teachers. I go back to, unfortunately, I hate even saying the word. It's like a 4-letter word, COVID. But that year it was a real challenge for teachers. Teachers, and certainly healthcare workers. But the Phanatic, does these school appearances and assemblies, and so that year we did the Zoom assemblies. The poor teachers are trying to teach kids over, the camera and over video. And so I saw firsthand, the challenges that they faced. And, I think because the Phanatic's so passionate, I think that's just really a key to anything. I think teachers who love what they do, and those teachers to be able to stick with it all year and do the best they can, it's in their heart and they're passionate about what they do. So the more that is shown, everybody remembers. I think we all do as adults. You remember who your favorite teachers were. And if you go back, you think of the ones who weren't just going through the motions. They were the ones who were living it every day and just exuding positivity and optimism, and it could be hard. I mean, some of the teachers I think of can be tough, and I think that's part of Evan and my message too, is that operational excellence. That not everything, and you have to be tough. Love is a thing, and so you could have a teacher who can be a little tough, but certainly I think that means she cares or he cares. But I just do believe if a teacher can kind of show that passion that the Phanatic shows every day, the kids are just going to respond, and I think it just serves everyone.
I totally agree. I think, the classroom is a place to learn, but it's also a place to feel the love. And it is a place to feel that, you're valued and appreciated every day. And I think our teachers do an amazing job of that. This is what we teach and what we, pray about. Catholic schools are about the love of Jesus. And so I think that's what we communicate, but we can be the vessels for that. And the way we do it and the way we approach it can make such a big difference in the life of the little kids. Right, Mike?
Absolutely, yeah. And they can look at the classroom as their stadium, right? They've got all those equations to these principles. I had to ask because you brought it up, and it was one of my favorite parts of the talk, although I did it wrong. But can you talk a little bit, because you mentioned the hot dog launcher, and you can share, if you want to share the story you shared there, you're welcome to. I know we only have a few more minutes with you, but that part of the team effort, where does some of that kind of stuff come about? Just relay that sort of, that's I think the principle 3, the duct tape and the hot dogs. You mentioned the operational excellence piece. So can you share some fun stories about like little things like that, like the toys that the Phanatic gets and things like that?
Yeah. Well, people see the Phanatic. Part of the Phanatic's job is in the 5th inning. Not every game. We introduced the hot dog launcher in 1996. I can't believe we're still shooting hot dogs to our fans, but it's Philly. Philly it gets hungry very easy, so it's like the Phanatic's happy to feed everybody. But yeah, but you think, oh, well, that's all the Phanatic does. He goes out there and, he pushes a button, which actually it's all I do. But, push a button and the thing's launched 300 feet in the air. And, we try to feed as many fans as we can. But the fact is, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when the Phanatic wants to shoot hot dogs. And we have to involve our whole entertainment staff. I have to relay to them, okay, this is what we're going to do tonight. We have a team of kids who they get the hot dogs from the concession stand. They have to be cooked. We cook about 25 of them. They have to then wrap them up. And we had to figure out what's the best way to wrap a hot dog. Evan and I do a seminar where we actually get our attendees to wrap hot dogs. We're going to wrap hot dogs. What's the most aerodynamically way we can, wrap a hot dog? So, but they have to be wrapped a certain way. I have to let the ground crew know we have a vehicle, it's a John Deere, that they have to then convert into a hot dog launcher by putting signs on it. We have to mount this huge 6-foot, long fiberglass hot dog. We use nitrogen. We used to use CO2 back at the vet when the hot dog launcher was a little smaller, but nitrogen's got a little bit more oomph, and it also creates a little bit of a plume of smoke, which makes it a little bit more dramatic when you shoot a hot dog. And then I have to get in touch with our Fanavision guys and let them know that's what we're doing. The camera guys have to be ready. The music, we pick the right hot dog music, or Who Let the Dogs Out, whatever they want to do. And then I go out and then at that point, then that's all I go out, and all I have to do is push a button and we launch these things. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And that's all part of the love. I do like telling a story, Michael, and it doesn't always go right. And I'll tell a quick story. This was, what was the year? I forget what year it was, but it was in the middle of our run where we had over 250 sellouts in a row. And it was coming up that afternoon. Before the gates open, we were filming a commercial with Hatfield Quality Meats that featured the hot dog launcher. And yeah, when we stopped filming, I decided to have a little bit of fun with the guys who were with me, and I started, let's see how far we can launch hot dogs. Well, we were launching them right out of Citizens Bank Park and having a good time. Well, we we get off the field and then we're getting ready to open the gates. It's just about 5 o'clock, getting ready to open the gates. And I'm back in my office and there's a little bit of a commotion and somebody ducks their head in and says, "Hey, did you hear? We're not opening the gates. There's a bomb scare happening right now and we're getting ready to evacuate the building. They're letting the players know they're down in the clubhouse. They're going to have to evacuate." I turn on Action News at 5 o'clock, right at 5, in my office. And there's a reporter talking about, yep, there's a bomb scare. The bomb squad's on their way. They're not opening the gates. Apparently, someone found 3 oblong packages wrapped in duct tape outside the stadium, in like the plaza area. And they were suspicious enough that they called the bomb squad. And so I ran down. I had to tell, my boss, like, "No, it's not a bomb. They're hot dogs." We were too late.
Operational excellence at its best.
Well, it can go wrong. And we were too late. The actual bomb squad did show up and they actually detonated. We did not get word down to them fast enough. And they blew up 3 hot dogs on Patterson.
That is so funny. Well, we only have like a minute or two with you. We know you have to go get ready for the season. And I have to ask, as a lifelong Phillies fan, attended a World Series victory. What are we looking like? How are we feeling about the season? I know we've got some really just weeks until pitchers and catchers. So before we let you go, what are you feeling?
I know it always comes up so quickly. Spring training will be here before you know it. We have this great ball club that we put together, a couple of years ago. So we still got that same core. They're still in their prime. We had one of the best regular seasons we've ever had in the history of our franchise. So there was no need to rip everything up. I think Dave Dombrowski, our general manager, is smart enough to kind of plug in some holes, improve at the edges. I think our starting pitching is as good as anybody, and that includes the Dodgers, they're spending all that money out there. But I don't know, Michael. The Phanatic is always optimistic, and
that's
so
right.
This is going to be a year that ends in a parade, no doubt about it.
I love it. Well, we thank you very much for giving us the time, both you and Evan, and we look forward to seeing you and your friend out and about this season. And we hope to see you again. I'm sure Marianela and I in our travels will see you at you and your friend at some of our schools throughout the year. So thank you again for being on. We'll definitely, make sure everyone knows about the book. We'll put a link in our in the show description. And again, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. It was really a pleasure being with both of you today.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Well, Marianela, thank you. We got a minute or two for you and I to sort of wrap everything up. And we just, impressions on today. Are you feeling the love now, Marianela?
I am feeling the love, and I'm just kind of like, in my mind, I'm just kind of like thinking how wonderful it is that, somebody gets to do something with such passion and feel so much love during your lifetime. You are alive and living all of this positive emotions and feelings of, being so loved by the whole, community. What an amazing life. So we're just kind of like grateful to see your joy and what you bring to the world, Tom. And I'm excited to kind of like be able to have a conversation about this today, Mike.
Absolutely. And I know this will be recorded later, so or be broadcast later. So we want to make sure Catholic schools by this point is probably over. We want to thank everybody for being a part of it. And we hope the open houses went well. We hope all of the events went well. You'll see a ton of pictures. Look back at our Facebook page, South Jersey Catholic Schools, for all of the entertaining things. Any final words, Marianela, about re-enrollment? We should say, always check out our Catholic schools, southjerseycatholicschools.org. By this point, we'll have a brand new looking website. It's all the same great content, just a new little facelift for the new year. But any closing words on that before we go?
Well, just kind of like, remember that our schools are open and we have a lot of love to give, especially in this month of love where we're celebrating Valentine's Day. I just hope that you are able to provide the gift that never goes away. This definitely show a lot of love when parents sacrifice, their treasures and their time to put their kids through Catholic education. So We love you all in the Office of Catholic Education, and we hope that this month, if you're not there yet, you're able to clear your minds and come in to see what it is that our schools are like. So that's all I have for today.
Good. Well, thank you again, guests, and thank you again, Marianela. It's always a pleasure, and we'll see and talk to everybody next week. Thank you so much.